Black women fell in love with the millionaire and discovered that he and their best friend. Subscribe and tell us where you're watching us from today. The loud sound of the gavel echoed through the courtroom. "Divorce granted," said the judge in a calm voice. For Luciana Hartley, those words meant the end of her marriage and the start of something new. At 35 years old, she was finally free from a marriage that hadn't been happy for a long time. As she walked out of the courtroom, Luciana felt both happy and scared. The sound of her high heels on the hard floor seemed to mark the beginning of her new life. Her lawyer, a kind woman in her 40s, put her hand on Luciana's shoulder. "Congratulations, Luciana. I know it's hard, but you made the right choice. Now it's time to start fresh." Luciana nodded, trying not to cry. She wasn't sad, but she felt a lot of different emotions. Maybe she was a little scared of what would happen next or excited for the future. 2 months later, Luciana was finishing unpacking the last of her things in her new house in Westport, Connecticut. The house was big and beautiful, much larger than she needed, but her divorce had come with a lot of money and she decided to enjoy herself. The house had 3 floors, large windows that let in lots of sunlight, and an amazing view of the Long Island Sound. The neighborhood was quiet and full of fancy houses with pretty gardens. As Luciana was putting things away in the big kitchen, she heard the doorbell ring. She wondered who it could be since she didn't know anyone in the area. When she opened the door, a woman with a welcoming smile stood there holding a basket of goodies. "Hi, I'm Isolde Russo, your neighbor. I just wanted to welcome you to the neighborhood." Luciana smiled, feeling happy that someone had stopped by. "Thank you. I'm Luciana Hartley. Please come in." The 2 women quickly became friends. Isolde had also recently gotten divorced and moved to Westport about 6 months ago. They sat and chatted in the living room, drinking white wine. Isolde seemed kind and easy to talk to, and Luciana felt like she had found a real friend. "So, Luciana, what brought you to Westport?" Isolde asked, her blue eyes curious. Luciana thought for a moment before answering. "Well, I'm starting over. My divorce was final 2 months ago, and I needed a change." Isolde nodded. "I understand. I went through the same thing, but trust me, this place is great for healing. It's a good place to forget the past." As they talked, Luciana realized how comfortable she felt with Isolde. It was like they had known each other forever. After a while, Isolde stood up to leave. "Before I go, there's a party at the yacht club next Saturday. Why don't you come? It'll be a good chance to meet new people." Luciana wasn't sure about going to a party, especially since she was now single, but Isolde's smile was so encouraging that Luciana agreed. "Sure, why not? It sounds like fun." The next few days passed quickly as Luciana kept busy setting up her new house and exploring Westport. The town was beautiful, with a mix of seaside charm and fancy neighborhoods. Luciana started imagining what life would be like here, far away from the memories of her old marriage. On the night of the party, Luciana looked at herself in the mirror, nervously adjusting her dress. It had been so long since she had gone to a party without her ex-husband. She wasn't sure if she still remembered how to dress up and feel good about herself. Isolde arrived right on time to pick her up, and they headed to the yacht club. The building was huge and fancy, with a beautiful view of the water. When Luciana saw so many well-dressed people at the party, she felt a little nervous. "Relax," Isolde said, noticing her worry. "You look great. Let me introduce you to some people." As the night went on, Luciana started to feel more comfortable. People were friendly and kind, and she found herself talking about things she loved, like books, art, and travel. Then she saw him. He was standing by the bar, holding a glass of whiskey, laughing with some men. He was tall, with gray hair at his temples and a smile that made him look warm and kind. When he noticed Luciana looking at him, their eyes met. For a moment, Luciana felt like time had stopped. He smiled at her, and her heart raced. "Who's that?" Luciana asked Isolde, trying to sound casual. Isolde smiled and looked over at the man. That's Sebastian Blackwell. He... Before Isolde could finish, Sebastian walked toward them. Good evening, ladies, he said, his voice deep and friendly. Isolde, it's great to see you again. And who is your lovely friend? Luciana blushed as Isolde introduced them. There was something about the way Sebastian looked at her that made her feel special. It's nice to meet you, Luciana, Sebastian said, taking her hand and gently kissing her fingers. I hope you're enjoying Westport. Luciana was surprised at how calm and confident she sounded as she replied, I love it here. That's great, Sebastian said with a smile. Maybe I could show you some of my favorite places in town sometime. Luciana's heart skipped a beat. Was that an invitation? She was about to answer when Isolde spoke up. Sebastian knows all the best spots in town, she said with a little tension in her voice. He's lived here for years. The rest of the evening flew by, and Luciana couldn't stop thinking about Sebastian. Every time their eyes met, she felt a tingle of excitement. That night, when she got home, she lay in bed feeling both tired and happy. For the first time in a long time, she felt alive, hopeful about her new life. She didn't know that this night would be the start of a new chapter, one that would challenge both her heart and her friendship with Isolde. Days passed, and Luciana found herself thinking about Sebastian a lot. One Saturday morning, she decided to walk around the town. As she walked down Main Street, she heard a familiar voice. Luciana! What a nice surprise! She turned around and saw Sebastian, smiling warmly. He was dressed casually in jeans and a blue shirt that made his eyes shine. He looked even more handsome in the daylight. Hi, Luciana said, trying to hide how excited she felt. I was just exploring the town. You picked a great day for it, Sebastian said, looking at the clear blue sky. Have you had breakfast yet? I know a great cafe nearby. Before she could stop herself, Luciana agreed. They walked together to a small cafe, chatting like old friends. The cafe was cozy, with the smell of fresh bread in the air. As they drank coffee, they talked about their lives, their interests, and their dreams. What brought you to Westport? Sebastian asked, his eyes focused on her. Luciana hesitated for a moment, then told him the truth. I'm starting over. I recently got divorced, and I needed a change. Sebastian's face softened with understanding. I know exactly how you feel. I went through something similar a few years ago. It's not easy, but Westport has a way of helping people heal. Luciana felt touched by his words and began to open up more, telling him about her work as an interior designer and her hopes for the future. They talked for hours, laughing and getting to know each other. When they looked at the time, it was already past noon. Wow, time flew by, Luciana said in surprise. I'd love to show you more of the town, Sebastian said with a smile. How about a walk by the harbor this afternoon? Luciana wanted to go, but she remembered that she had plans with Isolde. I'd love to, but I already have plans. Maybe another time. Of course, Sebastian said, his smile still there, though a little disappointed. After they said goodbye, Luciana walked home with a smile on her face. She couldn't stop thinking about the morning and how happy she felt. Later, when she had lunch with Isolde, Luciana couldn't stop thinking about Sebastian. She stared at the sea, lost in thought. Isolde noticed. Luciana, where are you? I can see that look on your face. Is it about a certain gray-haired man from the party? Luciana blushed and admitted, yes, I saw Sebastian again this morning, and we had coffee together. Isolde's smile seemed to disappear for a second. Oh, that's nice. How was it? It was great, Luciana said, her voice full of excitement. He's so easy to talk to, and we had a wonderful time. Isolde nodded but looked a little uneasy. Luciana, I need to tell you something about Sebastian. Luciana sat up straight. What is it? Isolde took a deep breath. He's my ex-husband. Luciana felt like someone had knocked the wind out of her. Your ex-husband? Why didn't you tell me? Isolde looked guilty. I was going to tell you, but then I saw how you two looked at each other. I didn't want to make things awkward. Luciana felt confused and hurt. She had been talking about Sebastian with Isolde, not knowing the truth. "This changes everything," Luciana said softly. Isolde reached across the table and took Luciana's hand. "I understand this is a lot to take in. I want you to know that our friendship is important to me. If you want to move on with Sebastian, I will understand." Luciana looked at Isolde, feeling unsure of what to do. She needed time to think. "I think I need some time to myself," she said, getting up from the table. As Luciana walked home, she felt like the ground had been pulled out from under her. She had come to Westport for a fresh start, but now she found herself in the middle of a confusing emotional situation. As the sun set over Long Island Sound, Luciana felt confused. In the morning, things had seemed so nice, but now everything felt so complicated. She knew she had to choose between a possible romance with Sebastian and her friendship with Isolde. For the first time since she had arrived in Westport, Luciana felt very alone. The days after Isolde told Luciana the secret were full of emotions. Luciana stayed in her new home and ignored all the calls and messages from Isolde and Sebastian. She needed time to think about everything. One afternoon, feeling very sad, Luciana decided to go outside. Maybe the fresh air would help clear her mind. She grabbed her car keys and drove to Campo Beach. The beach was quiet, with only a few people walking along the shore and children playing in the sand. Luciana took off her shoes and let the cool ocean water touch her feet. For a moment she felt calm. Suddenly she heard a familiar voice. She froze. It was Sebastian. He was standing a few meters away, looking worried. "Sebastian," she said, trying to sound calm. He stepped toward her slowly. "I tried to call you, but I know," Luciana interrupted him. "I'm sorry. I just needed some time." Sebastian nodded. "Isolde told you, didn't she?" Luciana felt a lump in her throat. "Yes, she did." They stood there for a moment, the sound of the waves filling the air. Finally, Sebastian spoke again. "I'm sorry. I should have told you about Isolde from the start. I didn't mean to make things difficult." Luciana looked at him closely. She wanted to know if he was being honest. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked. Sebastian sighed. "Honestly, when I met you, I felt alive again. I didn't want the past to get in the way." His words made Luciana feel something deep inside. She had felt that same special connection with him too. But then she remembered something important. "But Isolde is my friend. She's the only friend I have here in Westport." "I know," Sebastian said. "The last thing I want is to cause problems between you two. Isolde and we've had our moments, but now we're just good friends." Luciana raised an eyebrow, not sure what to think. "Good friends after a divorce?" Sebastian smiled a little. "Believe it or not, yes. Our marriage ended because we realized we were better as friends than as a couple." As they walked along the beach, Luciana listened closely to him. The more he explained, the more she felt her doubts start to fade. Sebastian stopped and turned to face her. "Luciana, I understand if this is too much. If you want me to walk away, I will respect your decision." Luciana looked at him, her heart racing. Part of her wanted to say yes and ask him to step away so her life could be simpler. But another part of her, a growing part, didn't want him to leave. I don't know what I want, Sebastian," she said quietly. "It's all so complicated." He nodded, understanding. "I know. I'm not asking you to make a decision right now. I just want you to know that if you decide to give this a chance." He gestured between them. "I'll be here." A cold wind blew across the beach, making Luciana shiver. Without saying anything, Sebastian took off his coat and put it over her shoulders. His kind gesture made Luciana feel warm inside. "Thank you," she said, pulling the coat tighter around her. They continued walking, each lost in their own thoughts. When they reached the spot where they had met, Luciana knew she needed to make a decision soon. "Sebastian," she said, her voice shaking a little, "I need more time to think. I need to talk to Isolde. You understand, right?" He smiled gently, his eyes full of understanding. "Of course I understand, Luciana. Take all the time you need. I'll be here when you're ready." They hugged quickly, and as Luciana felt his arms around her, it was like an electric shock went through her body. After the hug, she drove home, knowing that she had an important conversation ahead. She needed to talk to Isolde, figure out what was in her heart, and understand her own feelings. When Luciana got home, she picked up her phone. After a moment of thinking, she typed a message to Isolde. "Can we talk tomorrow at the cafe on Main Street at 10 a.m.? The reply came quickly. "Sure, I'll be there." That night, Luciana lay in bed, thinking about everything that had happened. She had come to Westport looking for a fresh start, but now everything felt so complicated. As she listened to the sound of the waves in the distance, Luciana closed her eyes. Tomorrow would be a new day, a new chance to figure things out. She didn't know it yet, but the talk with Isolde was going to change everything again. The next morning, there was a soft mist in the air as Luciana got up early, feeling nervous. She had to meet Isolde and talk things through. When Luciana arrived at the cafe, she chose a table in the back, away from others. Her hands were shaking as she stirred her coffee, waiting for Isolde to arrive. At 10 a.m., the cafe door opened, and Isolde walked in. She looked around the room and found Luciana. She gave a small smile and walked over to the table. "Hi, Liv," Isolde said softly, sitting down. "Thanks for coming," Luciana replied, trying to stay calm. Isolde sighed. "Luciana, I'm sorry. I should have told you about Sebastian from the start. I just didn't know how." Luciana took a deep breath and asked, "Why didn't you tell me, Isolde? You knew I liked him. You saw the way we looked at each other at the party." Isolde lowered her eyes, looking guilty. "I know. At first, I thought it was just a small thing. But then I saw how the two of you connected, and I got scared." "Scared of what?" Luciana asked. "Because I still have feelings for Sebastian," Isolde said. Luciana felt like she had been punched. She sat back in her chair, trying to understand what Isolde had said. "But you told me your divorce was okay. You said you were better as friends," Luciana said. "We are," Isolde said quickly. "At least that's what I told myself. But the truth is, our marriage ended because Sebastian wanted something else. He wanted to travel. I wanted a family and stability." Luciana listened carefully, feeling sorry for Isolde and confused at the same time. Isolde sighed. "Now I don't know. Seeing Sebastian so happy with you made me realize that maybe I made a mistake by letting him go." For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Luciana said softly, "I didn't know. If I had known, I would never have." Isolde interrupted her. "No, Liv, it's not your fault. It's mine. I should have been honest with you from the beginning." Luciana felt tears in her eyes. "What do we do now? You're my friend, Isolde. I don't want to lose you." Isolde squeezed Luciana's hand. "I don't want to lose you either, Liv. Your friendship means the world to me. That's why I need to be honest with you now. I saw you and Sebastian on the beach yesterday." Luciana gasped. "What?" "I didn't mean to," Isolde said quickly. "I was just out for my walk and I saw you two talking. The way he looked at you, how he put his coat around your shoulders, I realized something. He's never looked at me like that, not even when we were married." Luciana felt a sense of relief and gratitude. "So what does this mean?" Isolde smiled through her tears. "It means that I realize my feelings for Sebastian are more about my fear of being alone than real love. If you want to be with him, I want you to go for it. You have my blessing and my support." The two women stood up and hugged tightly. Tears flowed down their faces, but they both felt better. When they finally pulled away, Luciana asked, "Are you sure about this, Isolde? Your friendship is so important to me." Isolde smiled for real this time. "I'm sure, Liv, you deserve to be happy. If Sebastian can make you happy, then who am I to stand in your way?" As they left the cafe together, Luciana felt like a huge weight had been lifted off her shoulders. The mist had cleared, and the sky was sunny, just like how Luciana felt inside. But as they walked down the street, Luciana still had some doubts. Isolde had given her blessing, but was she really ready for a new relationship? And was Sebastian still waiting for her? Fall had come to Westport, and the trees were now full of red and gold leaves. It felt like the perfect time for change, just like Luciana's life was changing. In the weeks that followed, Luciana threw herself into her work. She was busy with her job as an interior designer, working on houses for next summer. The work kept her distracted, but she knew she still had big decisions to make. One afternoon, during a busy meeting, Luciana's phone buzzed. It was a message from Sebastian. "Hey stranger, I miss you. How about a coffee?" Luciana's heart raced. Even though Isolde had given her blessing, Luciana was still unsure. But something about his message made her smile. After her meeting, Luciana replied, "I'd love to. How about tomorrow afternoon at the little port?" The reply came quickly. "Perfect. Can't wait." The next day, Luciana arrived at the little seaside cafe early. She sat on the balcony watching the ocean. The cold wind blew her hair, but she hardly noticed. She was too nervous to think about anything else. Then she heard a familiar voice. She turned and saw Sebastian standing there, smiling, holding 2 cups of coffee. "Actually, yes," he said. "A really nice guy who makes the best coffee in town." Sebastian laughed and sat down next to Luciana. "I hope he doesn't mind that I got ahead of him," he said, offering her a cup of coffee. Luciana took it, her fingers brushing against his for a brief moment. "Thanks," she said. "So, how long have you been coming here?" she asked. "Forever," Sebastian replied, looking out at the ocean. "This place has the best views in Westport. It's perfect for thinking about life." Luciana nodded, understanding what he meant. They sat quietly for a few minutes, enjoying the view and each other's company. Finally, Sebastian spoke again. "Luciana, I'm sorry for how complicated things have become," he said. "I never wanted to cause problems between you and Isolde." Luciana turned to look at him and saw how sincere he was. "I know, Sebastian," she said, "and everything's fine now. Isolde and I talked and we've cleared everything up." Sebastian was surprised. "Really? And how was it?" Luciana thought for a moment before answering. "It was enlightening. Isolde was very honest about her feelings and about yours." Sebastian raised an eyebrow. "Mine?" Luciana continued, feeling her cheeks get warm. "She told me she saw us on the beach that day. She said she'd never seen you look at her the way you looked at me." Sebastian smiled gently. "Well, she's not wrong," he said. "From the moment I met you, I felt something different, something special." Luciana's heart started to beat faster. "I felt it too, Sebastian, but I was afraid. I still am, to be honest." Sebastian reached out and covered her hand with his. "What are you afraid of?" he asked softly. Luciana took a deep breath, trying to find the courage to be completely honest. "I'm afraid of getting hurt again," she said. "I'm afraid of trusting and being disappointed. I'm afraid of losing not just a potential relationship, but also a precious friendship." Sebastian squeezed her hand gently. "I understand," he said. "Believe me, I have my fears too. But you know what? I think it's worth the risk." Luciana looked into his eyes. She saw vulnerability and determination, and it made her feel deeply touched. "What do you say, Luciana?" Sebastian asked. "How about we give it a chance? No rush, no pressure, just let's see where it can take us." At that moment, with the sound of the waves and the autumn wind blowing gently, Luciana felt something inside her loosen. A knot she hadn't even known she had from her divorce seemed to disappear. With a smile, she entwined her fingers with Sebastian's. "You know what?" she said. "I think you're right. It's worth the risk." Sebastian's smile lit up his face, and without saying another word, he leaned in and kissed Luciana softly. It was a brief kiss, almost innocent, but full of promise. When they pulled away, Luciana felt dizzy, but in a good way, like she was at the top of a roller coaster about to start a thrilling ride. "So, what do we do now?" Sebastian asked, still smiling. Luciana laughed, feeling lighter than she had in years. "How about we start with a walk along the beach? I hear the sunsets here are incredible." Sebastian stood up and held out his hand. Sounds perfect. Hand in hand, they walked towards the beach. The sun was starting to set, painting the sky in pink and orange. As they walked along the sand, chatting and laughing, Luciana felt a peace she hadn't experienced in a long time. She didn't know where this new chapter in her life would take her, but for the first time in a while, she was excited to find out. What Luciana didn't know was that while she was starting this new relationship, unexpected events were about to test not just her connection with Sebastian, but also her newly strengthened friendship with Isolde. The weeks that followed felt like a dream. Her relationship with Sebastian grew, filling her days with laughter, deep conversations, and moments of tenderness she hadn't experienced in a long time. Westport, which had once felt like a temporary place to stay, was starting to feel like home. One sunny Saturday afternoon, Luciana and Sebastian decided to have a picnic at Earth Place, a nature sanctuary outside Westport. As they walked along the wooded paths, hand in hand, Luciana smiled as she thought about how much her life had changed. "What are you thinking about?" Sebastian asked, noticing her smile. "How funny fate is," Luciana replied. "A few months ago, I was so lost, and now I feel at home." Sebastian stopped and pulled her close. "I'm glad to hear that," he said softly, before kissing her. The moment was interrupted by the sound of Luciana's cell phone. She picked it up, frowning when she saw who was calling. "It's Isolde," she said, her voice showing concern. "I wonder what's wrong." "Hi, Isolde," Luciana answered. Isolde's voice on the other end was shaky. "Liv, I'm sorry to interrupt your weekend, but I need your help. It's an emergency." Luciana felt a wave of worry. "Of course, Isolde. What happened?" "It's my mother," Isolde explained, her voice trembling. "She had a stroke. I'm at the hospital now, and I don't know what to do." Luciana's heart squeezed. She knew how much Isolde loved her mother. "I'm on my way." "Which hospital?" After getting the details, Luciana hung up the phone and turned to Sebastian. "I'm sorry, but I have to go. Isolde's mother is in the hospital." Sebastian nodded. "Of course. Let me drive you." The drive to the hospital was quiet. Luciana noticed that Sebastian seemed uncomfortable. She knew he and Isolde's mother had been close during their marriage. When they arrived at the hospital, they found Isolde in the waiting room, looking pale and tired. Seeing Luciana and Sebastian together, her eyes widened before filling with tears. "Luciana," Isolde cried, running to hug her. "I'm so scared." Luciana hugged her tightly, casting a grateful glance at Sebastian over Isolde's shoulder. He nodded and went to get coffee for everyone. The next few hours were a blur of talking to doctors, filling out forms, and moments of tense silence. Luciana stayed by Isolde's side, offering quiet support. It was late at night when the doctor finally came to them with news. "Mrs. Russo," the doctor said, and Isolde stood up, trembling. "Your mother is stable now. The stroke was mild, and we were able to intervene in time. She'll need therapy, but the outlook is good." Isolde looked relieved and hugged Luciana again. "Thank you for being here," she whispered. Luciana smiled, feeling a deep sense of love for her friend. But then, as Isolde went to see her mother, Luciana noticed Sebastian standing a little further away, looking uncomfortable. She reached out to him, pulling him into a hug. For a moment, the three of them stood there, united by relief and gratitude. Later, when Isolde went to see her mother, Luciana and Sebastian were alone in the waiting room. "You were amazing today," Luciana said, squeezing his hand. Sebastian smiled, but there was something in his eyes that made Luciana wonder. "Thank you," he said softly. "I just wanted to help." Luciana sensed there was more he wanted to say. "Is something bothering you?" Sebastian hesitated before answering. "Seeing Isolde like this reminded me of when we were married, how I wasn't always there for her in difficult times." Luciana felt a knot form in her stomach. "What do you mean?" "When we were married," Sebastian said with a sigh, "I was always traveling for work. I missed a lot of important moments, even when Isolde's father died." The silence between them was heavy. Luciana didn't know what to say. Part of her wanted to comfort Sebastian, but another part felt threatened by this revelation about his past with Isolde. Before they could talk more, Isolde returned, a tired smile on her face. "She's awake," she said. "She asked for you, Sebastian." Sebastian looked surprised but nodded. He gave Luciana one last glance before following Isolde to her mother's room. Luciana stayed in the waiting room, feeling a mix of emotions. She was happy that Isolde's mother was okay and grateful that she could help her friend, but she also felt unsure about what the day had revealed about Sebastian and his past with Isolde. As she watched Sebastian and Isolde walk down the hospital hallway together, Luciana couldn't help but wonder if their past really was behind them. Sebastian nodded slowly. "I see, and that scares you, right?" he asked. Luciana looked at him and said, "Yes, it makes me wonder if what we have can really be as strong as all your past with Madeline." Sebastian gently held her hands and looked into her eyes. "Luciana, yes, Madeline and I have a history. I can't change that. But what we have, you and I, is different. It's new, it's exciting, and it's real." Luciana felt tears start to form in her eyes. "But what if it's not enough? What if you decide you prefer the comfort of what you already know?" she asked softly. Sebastian pulled her into a hug. "The past isn't always better, Luciana," he said. "Madeline and I divorced for a reason. What we have is a chance to build something new, something just for us." Luciana felt some of her worry go away, but there was still one thing she needed to ask. She pulled away slightly so she could look at him and said, "Do you still have feelings for Madeline?" The question felt heavy, and for a moment the sound of the ocean waves filled the silence. Sebastian took a deep breath before answering. "Luciana, I'll be completely honest with you. Madeline will always have a special place in my heart because we shared so much. But I'm not in love with her anymore. What I feel for you is different. It's stronger and it's deeper." Luciana nodded, taking in his words. "Thank you for being honest," she said softly. "Always," Sebastian replied, kissing her gently. As they walked back to the city, holding hands, Luciana felt a little better. Their talk had not solved all her worries, but it was a good start. However, fate had a different plan to test her peace of mind. As they turned a corner, they bumped into Madeline coming out of a store. "Oh, hi," Madeline said, surprised to see them together. She looked at their hands together for a moment before her gaze returned to their faces. "Hi, Luciana," she said. "Hi," Luciana replied, feeling a little guilty. "How's your mom?" Madeline asked. "She's getting better, thank you," Luciana said. Madeline smiled, though it didn't seem as warm. "Actually, I was thinking about having a thank you dinner for everyone who helped us. Would you like to come?" Luciana and Sebastian exchanged a quick look before Sebastian replied, "Sure, that sounds great." "When?" Madeline asked. "How about Friday night at my place?" Madeline suggested. "We'll be there," Luciana agreed, trying not to feel too uneasy. After Madeline left, Luciana and Sebastian stood on the sidewalk for a moment. "Well, this is going to be interesting," Sebastian said, trying to lighten the mood. Luciana forced a smile. "Yeah, sure." As they walked home, Luciana couldn't stop thinking that even though their talk on the beach had helped, the real test for their relationship was still coming. The dinner at Madeline's house wouldn't just be a nice evening. It was going to be a chance to face Sebastian's past and test their future together. Luciana had no idea that the dinner would bring surprises that would change everything. Not just her relationship with Sebastian, but also her friendship with Madeline and even how she saw herself. The stage was set for a night that would change everything. When Friday came, Luciana felt nervous. She couldn't shake the feeling that something big was about to happen. "Is everything okay?" Sebastian asked, adjusting his tie in the bedroom mirror. Luciana tried to smile. "Yeah, just a little nervous." Sebastian stepped closer, putting his hands on her shoulders. "It'll be fine, Liv. We're all adults here." Luciana nodded, wishing she could feel as calm as he looked. The drive to Madeline's house was quiet. everyone lost in their own thoughts. When they arrived, Luciana took a deep breath before ringing the doorbell. Madeline opened the door with a warm smile. "Welcome. Come in, please." The house smelled delicious, with candles lit and food filling the air. Some friends were already there, including Madeline's mom, who was looking better. The evening started off nicely with some light talking and laughter, and Luciana started to feel more at ease, thinking maybe her fears weren't as big as she had thought. But things started to change during dinner. Madeline's mom, Florence, started telling funny stories about the past. "Ah, Sebastian, remember that time you and Madeline tried to make a surprise dinner for me and almost set the kitchen on fire?" Florence laughed. Sebastian smiled, remembering. "How could I forget? That was the last time I tried to cook anything complicated." Luciana watched them, starting to feel like she didn't belong. She saw the way Madeline looked at Sebastian with a mix of longing and sadness, and it made Luciana's heart hurt. After dinner, when the guests started talking and moving around, Luciana decided to step outside for some fresh air. The night was clear, with stars shining brightly above. She took a deep breath, trying to calm her mind. "Is everything okay?" Madeline's voice surprised Luciana. Luciana turned to see Madeline standing in the doorway. "Yes, I just needed a moment," Luciana said. Madeline walked over and stood next to her, both of them looking up at the sky. "You know," Madeline started softly, "when you and Sebastian started dating, I thought it would be harder for me." Luciana was surprised by Madeline's honesty. "But now," Madeline continued, "I see something. I realize that Sebastian has never looked at me the way he looks at you." Madeline smiled a little, though it was sad. "Not even when we were married." Luciana felt tears coming to her eyes, but Madeline stopped her gently. "No, let me finish," she said. "What I'm trying to say is that you two have something special, Liv, something that Sebastian and I never had, and I'm happy for you. I really am." The two women hugged, silent tears falling. "Thank you, Madeline," Luciana whispered. "Your friendship means a lot to me," Luciana added. Madeline wiped her tears and smiled. "Now, let's get back before Sebastian thinks I've kidnapped you." They both laughed, and the tension between them felt lighter than it had in weeks. Back inside, Luciana saw Sebastian talking to some guests. When their eyes met, he smiled at her, and that smile was full of love and promise. Later, when they were driving home, Luciana felt calm. She turned to Sebastian, who was driving quietly. "You know," she said, "I think I finally understood something tonight." "What?" he asked, curious. "I understood that the past is important," Luciana said, "but it's the present that really matters, and the future we can build together." Sebastian took her hand, kissing it softly. "I couldn't agree more, my love." When they got home and stood on the balcony, looking at the stars, Sebastian turned to Luciana. "Tonight made me realize something too," he said, his voice full of emotion. "What?" Luciana asked, her heart racing. Sebastian knelt down, pulling a small box from his pocket. "I realized I don't want to spend another day without you by my side. Luciana Hartley, will you marry me?" Luciana gasped, tears of joy filling her eyes. "Yes," she whispered. 1,000 times, yes!" As Sebastian put the ring on her finger and kissed her passionately, Luciana knew she had finally found her place. Westport wasn't just a place she was visiting. It was the start of her new life, full of love, friendship, and endless possibilities. And so, under the starry sky of Westport, Luciana embraced her future, grateful for all the challenges that had brought her here. Because in the end, it was through these challenges that she found true love and herself. Thanks for watching. If you liked the story, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Check out our other videos too. See you in the next one.